Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josiah Magnuson, and I'm state representative. I have the high privilege of serving with Stuart Jones and other liberty-minded representatives, which we're getting more and more liberty-minded representatives over the last couple of election cycles, and we look forward to more being elected this time.
Amen.
But thank you, Lauren, for hosting this rally. Thank you, each one of you, for being here today and standing with me to get a little sunburned and but take a stand for our freedom. And I think, you know, that's something that sets us apart as freedom fighters and patriots from some people, because, you know, we've got to be willing to do hard things, and we don't believe in a world that's wrapped in bubble wrap. And I think that that's part of what a lot of our legislators want, and a lot of people, you know, unfortunately across our country want, is a nation that's wrapped in bubble wrap. And I think there's two parts to that we should be aware of. First of all, a lot of people think that the role of government is to wrap the world in bubble wrap, keep everybody safe. And, you know, of course, I'm a great advocate of the right to life, and Senator Matthew Clark is, and Representative Stuart Jones, and I'm the main sponsor of the Personhood Act, which is the right to life for preborn children in the House. But the right to life is not the same as guaranteed safety. Protecting the right to life is it's not the same thing. So the question is, you know, and Matthew Clark mentioned about the danger from taking a family vacation is roughly the same in most states as the COVID-19 threat. Do you think that the government should ban cars in order to stop car wrecks? No. Do you think that the government should ban alcohol because alcohol is a big contributor to domestic violence? Most people don't think so. Okay, but the point, some people said yes, okay. But the point is that government does not exist to wrap the world in bubble wrap. And we have a principle in this country, and it's called freedom. And we don't just try to keep anything bad from happening. What we do is we protect people's unalienable rights. The principle of unalienable rights is to bring justice on those who harm other people intentionally. Now, having a car wreck is not harming somebody else intentionally. You know, we don't ban cars just because you might get hurt in the car. Patrick Henry didn't say, give me liberty or give me safety from diseases. He said, give me liberty or give me death. So we do stand up for the right to life, but we also realize that the right to liberty is greater than a guarantee of safety. So government does not exist fundamentally to protect you from all possible sources of harm. It exists to secure your rights. Does not exist to wrap the world in bubble wrap. The other side of this is that a lot of times these politicians think that everything that goes on in the State House should be wrapped in bubble wrap. And what we're seeing is a sort of a sense in Columbia, as well as across the country, that well, you know, these people, those people, they don't do it the right way, they don't play ball, so we're not going to listen to their stand for freedom. Well, first of all, let me back up a second. Why do we need to stand for freedom to begin with? This is not just a statewide issue, this is a nationwide issue. As some of the speakers have mentioned, there's stuff going on in California, of course, Illinois, Michigan, Virginia. Across this country, there's attacks on freedom, and South Carolina is not exempt from helping to lead and stand up for individual liberty. We've got the issue of overregulation, some businesses being declared to be essential and some declared not essential, which again is a bizarre way of applying government to a situation. We've seen churches being shut down. We've seen contact tracing, as was mentioned earlier, and just these impositions on personal liberty and privacy all over the place. And then not to mention the attacks on private property. You know, when we get into the overregulation and the shutting down of businesses, that is an illegal taking, which I believe, you know, violates the Fourth Amendment as well as many other principles of America. But there are some of us that are trying to stand up against this stuff. There's some of us that have been outspoken about it. And many of the people in House leadership and Senate leadership say, you're doing it the wrong way. Well, let me tell you something. Saying that we are facing tyranny is not a personal insult to anybody. It's just stating facts. We're not fighting anybody as a person. we're fighting for the ideas that have made America great, and we need to continue to do that. A lot of times in the House, what we find is that or with the governor, the fact that I spoke out against the overreach and the blatant violation of state law in regards to the 15-day limit on the state of emergency, a lot of people took that as that I was attacking the governor. Well, that's not true. I wasn't attacking the governor. I was trying to uphold the law of the state of South Carolina. Yeah. So we need to get away from this idea that politicians are wrapped in bubble wrap and can't take any criticism. And the establishment really has just tried to start making this all about personalities. And you look at Jonathan Hill's race. Now, Jonathan Hill is a great, standard bearer for freedom in South Carolina. The SCGOP has decided to support his opponent in the race. And part of their reasoning is because of personalities. They think him as a person, that he's not going about it the right way. But what they need to realize is that Jonathan Hill has been a standard bearer for the Republican platform, and he has been fighting for your and my freedom. And so what we got to get away from this idea of bubble wrapping politicians and not allowing anybody to speak up. A lot of times, and let me say another thing Stuart mentioned about intentions, and that's something I'd like to touch on as well, because when we talk about freedom, when we talk about how these rights are being taken away piece by piece and how we've got to be vigilant for liberty, we're not saying that the people who are taking away those rights are bad intentioned. A lot of times they actually mean the best. And let me see if I can get a quote here from C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis, of course, was a great Christian apologist. And he says this: "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. Yes. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his cupidity may at some point be satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. They may be more likely to go to heaven, yet at the same time likelier to make a hell of earth. That very kindness stings with intolerable insult. To be cured against one's own will," and listen very carefully, I think this is very pertinent, "to be cured against one's own will and cured of states which we may not regard as disease, is to be put on a level of those who have not yet reached the age of reason, or those who never will. To be classed with infants, imbeciles, and domestic animals." That was C.S. Lewis.
Amen.
So the governor might be well-intentioned, the Speaker of the House might be well-intentioned, my colleagues in the House and the Senate might be well-intentioned, but that doesn't make them right.
Amen.
And we still have to stand up against what's wrong. Now, what we need to remember, and let me give you another quote that I've quoted on the House floor and that I hope that you will not forget, is from Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson, he talked about this, about how that the battle for liberty would never end and that we always would have to be vigilant. And he said, you probably heard, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. But let me give you the rest of the quote, okay? Because it's very important that we understand the mindset that we've got to have if we're going to be successful in the fight for freedom. Thomas Jefferson says this: "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Power is ever stealing from the many to the few. The manna of popular liberty must be gathered each day, or it is rotten. The living sap of yesterday outgrows the dead rind of the living sap of today outgrows the dead rind of yesterday. The hand entrusted with power becomes, either from human depravity or a spirit decor, the necessary enemy of the people." Technical difficulty. It becomes the necessary enemy of the people. Though power in general, it becomes an enemy of the people. Only, and he goes on to say this, only by continued oversight can the Democrat in office, with a small d, the Democrat in office, be prevented from hardening into a despot. Only by unintermitted agitation can a people be sufficiently awake to principle not to let liberty be smothered in material prosperity. Now, that is prescient not only because he's telling us to be eternally vigilant, but because he's giving us a reason that this might have happened because of material prosperity. A lot of people want the world to stay wrapped in bubble wrap. A lot of people don't want to get out of their comfort zones and take a stand like what you're doing today. So what you need to do is continue, and you need to recruit more folks that are willing to take some courage, willing to not think about who's going to be offended and who's going to say, well, I'm personally insulted by you calling out my voting record or whatever it may be. You need to make sure and just continue to stay the course. And what we're doing is working. We are seeing more liberty representatives, people who respect our rights, people who respect the Constitution. We're seeing those people get elected. I think we're going to continue to see that. But it's only going to happen if we stay involved and informed and don't give up. So I would challenge you here in conclusion. We don't want a world wrapped in bubble wrap. We want freedom. That's what America stands for. If we're done with America, then we can have that conversation, but I'm not ready to be done with America yet. We must protect lives, but we must protect rights. And that's what our country is about. I would challenge you, don't stand for the government wrapped in bubble wrap. Don't stand for politicians who think they need to stay wrapped in bubble wrap. You stay the course, you keep fighting, and make a difference, and together we'll continue to make South Carolina the freest state in the country. Thank you so much.